Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. In today's episode, I am giving the trend of SummerWeen a try. I have compiled some of my favorite Halloween-themed DIYs to share with you today. Never fear, I will be back with more summer and everyday decor DIYs in my next video. But if you are ready for some of those fall feels already, I hope this whets your appetite and gets you ready for the fall season that is just ahead. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing. When you see your favorite project, remember to hit the thumbs up. But let's go make some DIYs. When I saw these little pumpkin treat buckets at Dollar Tree, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with them. I thought they were so cute. And you could hang them backwards if you just wanted the pumpkin to show. If you like that cute little classic jack-o'-lantern face, it's just such a fun way to bring a definite fall feel into your home. Now, this is just a beaded garland that I have, that I use against a giant mirror that I have in my living room. I don't have a fireplace or a mantle, but I think this would be so cute along there as well. But I do a lot of different things to this beaded garland to kind of dress it up for different holidays. And so I thought this would be such a fun thing if you have a garland like this. If you don't, they do sell them. I mean, at the craft stores, Walmart, you can pick them up for very inexpensive. I mean, I think around $6 at Hobby Lobby when you buy it on sale. So this is just some little baby clothespins that I have here that I'm using to put through the twine that's on here. And I'm just hooking it through the twine and then onto that little handle of that little bucket. Such a fun and easy, quick hack to do. I'll just go through the rest of the garland and continue hooking these little buckets on. Once I get all of my little buckets attached, I just lift it up to make sure I have my spacing done really well. I wish there was 5, so it had an odd number, but there was only 4 in the package. So just take that as if you have a longer garland, you may want to pick a second package of these up. Now I wanted to cutesy it up a little bit more. The buckets are really cute just hanging there, but on those little clothespins, I thought it would be really cute to have this little black ribbon with this little white trim. This did come from just the fabric section at Hobby Lobby, and I thought it would just be so cute with these little teeny bows because we all know that I love bows tied on there. So it's up to you if you want to dress this up or jazz it up a little bit more. But I just do 4 of those little bows, and I'm just getting them all to the exact same size so it looks very cohesive. It just takes a little bead of hot glue on each of these little clothespins, and then I will just place my little bow on there. I really do think that this adds just such a good finishing touch on here and just makes it look very cutesy and high-end. I just love the way it looks. I feel like this was really what sets it off. I love the blacks and orange. Even if you're not like a Halloween fan, I still feel like blacks and oranges in fall just bring that feel of October into your home. And so I really do just love that. But I'm just going to continue on gluing all of my little bows on. It's really hard for me to film this and show you how it looks on my mirror just because of reflections and cameras and lighting and all sorts of other things, but I just thought I would put it here on this display to show you how cute this turns out. Do you guys like the bows on there? You could even fill these little buckets with something to have that be a little bit of an addition that you add. I just think these turn out so cute. And again, something easy that you could use for different types of seasons. If you have a garland that you like to kind of keep basic and add a few little different touches to it for different seasons. What do you guys think of these little trick-or-treat buckets? This DIY ends up being so cute in the end. I absolutely love it. And you can create it with all items from Dollar Tree. I am taking this little shadow box and I am removing the 3-dimensional portion of it. Then I'm going to take some black paint and just completely paint the frame. You of course can leave the frame or paint it, do whatever colors you would like, but I'm going to be placing some scrapbook paper over the back portion of this shadow box so I don't need to tape anything off. I can just go ahead and paint all around like such. And then I take this little pumpkin here. Now this came from Hobby Lobby, but they did have tons of different little wooden pumpkins at Dollar Tree. So I paint my pumpkin orange, and I'm going to paint this little block, which was a leftover piece from another DIY I did from a block from Dollar Tree. I'm just cutting down some scrapbook paper to size. I thought this little black and white buffalo check would be so cute for a contrast. And then I'm just using some purple school glue stick, which if you've been here for a minute, you know I absolutely love this stuff. And guys, I recently found my Cricut scraper, so I'm just using that to get all of the bubbles and things out. I'm just going to touch up my pumpkin, give it a little green stem there, and then I used my Cricut to cut out a jack-o'-lantern face. You could easily use a Sharpie to do this, but of course I don't freehand anything because I just do not have a talent for it. So I also cut out Happy Halloween, and I'm just going to take each of these and I'm going to glue them into the shadow box. And so this first block here that I'm gluing down, I don't need to raise it up any because it is, and whoops, I almost glued it upside down, but it is very thick and so it pops out well. But the little jack-o'-lantern is so thin, I'm just using a little teeny wooden block, and I use that to raise it up to give it that three-dimensional look. I think the colors of this turned out so cute, and I love that buffalo check paper in there. I feel like this is such a nice little addition for Halloween. It's not screaming like scary or gory or anything. It's just cute and sweet and totally my style. What do you guys think of this one? I thought it would be fun to try my hand at making some custom candles from the Dollar Tree pillar candles. So I've just placed these in a pot of water, and I will slowly bring up the temperature on these to melt this wax completely down. Now these do come with wicks in the middle, so you can reuse those wicks. I'm doing something different. I'll show you in just a moment. But I've just placed out a lid from like a pan. I use it a lot in crafting to kind of contain my mess, especially when working with like my different like Spanish moss or reindeer moss. But I thought it would be perfect to line with some paper because inevitably I will spill some wax. Now here is the wicks that I'm using, or here are the wicks I'm using. These are just some wooden, it says they're crackling wicks. Honestly, you don't really hear much of a crackle, but I thought it would be fun to use these, a little more custom high-end look, something that's just a little different than reusing the wax or the wick from the Dollar Tree ones. But definitely, I mean, if you want to cut costs down, you can definitely reuse those wicks. I did put them in a little baggie, so I'll have them for another time if I need some wicks for another project. Now these little jack-o'-lantern votives I picked up at Dollar Tree, and I just love them. I love them because you can turn them around and have them be like the plain pumpkin on the back side if you want to have more of the pumpkin side displayed, or you can have that cute little classic jack-o'-lantern face. Apparently, I'm really wanting to show you how these wicks work, and they are really quite nice. They have that little metal base that you can use. Now, I have not taken any wax out of these candles, and you saw how full they were before, so it melts down quite a bit. They must like whip the wax or something when they put on here, because even with the wax solidifying, it doesn't go that low. But anyhow, it takes 4 of these pillar candles to fill 3 of the Dollar Tree votives. I was just using my silicone dishwashing gloves there that have kind of like the bristly stuff on the inside of them. Just be very careful. You're working with hot wax. You can definitely burn yourself, but I would just pour the wax in there till I got it to my desired fill length. Now these are some essential oils I picked up off of Amazon. There are so many different types to choose from. I will link them in the description box. You don't have to add a scent. I thought that was kind of a fun part. There was 4 scents that were really good in this, and 2 of them I did not like at all. So just keep that in mind when you're buying scents unsmelled. You may not like all of them. Now, once I get all of my scent added in and stirred around just with a bamboo skewer, I placed that little wooden wick down inside, and it was kind of a dome shape on the bottom of these, so the wick wasn't standing up quite so well. So I did just place some bamboo skewers to hold it into place until that wax hardened. Now you could cut your wick down beforehand, which would work if you're using scissors. I have these little like jewelry snippers that have a flat end, and so I'm just kind of snipping either side of the wick there, and then you'll see I just kind of bend it back and forth and it snips right off, and then I can go back in and kind of straighten up or trim any mess, but you can kind of see how that wick looks. And then here I'm just showing you where I went and kind of flattened it off there, because when you break it off, it doesn't have quite the prettiest edge. So depending on what you're wanting to do, you may or may not need to do that. I think these are so fun to have those little cute faces there. I did 3 different fall scents in there. My daughters were already like, ooh, I want this one to burn first. They all have their favorite scents picked out. And honestly, they smelled so wonderful the day that I made these walking into my house. It just smelled just like fall. But you can see how beautiful and cute these are, just all lit up. I thought this was such an easy project. It took about an hour, a little over an hour for all of that wax to melt down. So it is kind of a little bit of like an afternoon project to do, but super fun. And I think these were so cute. They would make great gifts to do. But even if you didn't have these little pumpkin votives, I've seen people use like different mugs that they love. There's all sorts of different vessels that you could use to pour that wax into to use. But I just thought these were so cute and the fun different scents. But I'm already thinking other seasons, what could I do to make like Christmas gifts or different things? I think what a fun idea. Have you guys tried making candles? Did you have success with it? Do you have any tips you would like to share? Let me know down in the comments. This project can be completed with complete Dollar Tree items. So I have this little wood round that I got from the crafter square section, and then a wooden sign. And I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want my sign to end because I'm going to place that wood round on the top of it. And then I knew I wanted my next portion of the wood block to be just a teeny bit longer. So you can just kind of eyeball it. That's literally what I did. I didn't do any specific measurements. And then I just cut the 2 cuts on this. So I'm left with 3 pieces of this wood block sign, and I'll use 2 of them for this project, and I use 1 more for another project. And then guys, look at what this is. It's a Jenga block, like one of the tumbling tower blocks that I found at Dollar Tree finally. If you're new to my channel, I have been looking for these in my Dollar Tree for over a year and haven't seen them. So I finally got some. I paint one of the pieces of the block white, one of them black, and then I also paint my little tumbling tower black as well. So I'm cutting off the little twine piece of this little wood round, and I used some plaster to fill in that little hole. However, I did not necessarily need to do that, and you'll see why in just a moment here. But the block, or the wood round rather, is going to be painted orange, and I do decide to go around the trim, the edge, and paint that with black. With my cutting machine, I did cut this cute little witch out, and with her little broom, I can place that right over that little hole where I used the plaster, so you can see why I didn't need to necessarily do that. And so I put her on the round, and then for my blocks, I cut out the words Hocus Pocus, and I alternated the colors depending on what color block they were going to be on. And so I just go ahead and adhere those to each of my blocks. If you know anything about me, you know that I cannot freehand anything. So I am totally embracing the cutting machine or rub-on transfers, things like that, water slide decal paper, anything to help me not have to freehand anything. So I just used some E6000 and some hot glue to affix those together. And then what I will do is I'm taking my tumbling tower block, as you can see here, and I'm going to put that onto my round first, and then glue the tumbling tower block with the round already on it onto the base of the other blocks there. And then I do take a Q-tip to go in and just kind of touch up the black paint around that edge where some of the orange was peeking through. To me, this completely screams Halloween. Not only is it one of my most favorite movies, I just love the colors of this, and I think it is so fun. It looks like a cute little snow globe sitting on the top of this. I absolutely love this one. The faux caramel apple phase is very real and everybody loves them. Now, whether you get apples such as these, or maybe you find some wood cutouts, I know Walmart has this style right here. Dollar Tree typically has several different styles of apples this time of year, whether it's plain wood cutouts, their wood signs. Any way that you can get your hands on an apple shape, I'm going to show you kind of a little hack as far as how to get these to look so good. Now, this is just a warm caramel color of spray paint. I'll leave it linked down in my description box. I just painted mine. These are some that I had cut out, but again, you have so many different options. You can find apples literally anywhere, any craft store, any home decor store that you go into. And so this is just going to be a way to jazz them up and make them look like those little faux caramel apples. So I have mine painted, a couple red and one green, and I just took a little bit of fabric that I have and I just tore it into some strips, and I'm going to decorate these by tying this around kind of halfway up my stick. Now, if your apple doesn't have a stick, it is very easy. You just get one of those wooden dowels from Dollar Tree. You can use a a craft stick, such as I have here, to glue onto the back of your apple like it's coming out, or the top. That's how you're going to get your stick coming out of your apple. This is just more to show you how to do the little bit of embellishing here. And you can see I'm just going to tie this around. I had a cute little tag that I had on there that says caramel apple. That kind of is fun. But here is the hack. You want to take a screenshot of this right here. This is natural corncob bedding and litter. This is all natural. It is not going to bring bugs into your home. This stuff looks just like faux nuts, and it is amazing. And I found it on Amazon. It is kind of a larger bag that you have to buy. However, have a craft night, invite all your friends over to make these cute little caramel apples and use this stuff up. It is amazing. And I cannot believe how realistic it looks. And again, it's an all natural product that is dehydrated like corn cobs. Like, it's just fantastic, and it's just clean. There's no odor, nothing like that. But as you saw, I just put some Mod Podge on the bottom part of my caramel apple, kind of dipped my apple down into it. And now I'm just taking some extra and sprinkling it over the top of the apple. I have seen several influencers do this technique, so I'm hoping this works well. I'll let you know as the season goes on. Of course, there's no like foolproof way unless you use like resin or something, I don't think, to kind of have not a little bit of shedding from this. But I have to tell you, I made these a couple of weeks ago, and there has been very minimal amounts that have fallen off. But I have a hack for you if you want to know how to have that and have it contained. So I'll show you that in just a minute. But again, you can see I'm just kind of smushing all of those faux nuts down onto our apple. And then after it dries, I go back in with a little bit more Mod Podge, kind of in more like more clumps here. Kind of like if you're making a caramel apple and you have a little bit more caramel on one spot, or maybe a little clump of caramel and a little bit more nuts stick to that area. It's kind of what I'm going here. My daughter told me she liked it better when it had one layer of nuts. However, the rest of my family told me that they liked it better with the extra layer. It looked a little bit more like an expensive caramel apple that you would get. So you're going to do whatever style you like and play around with it. Have some fun and do a little bit of seeing which style you like more. But this is just to get a second layer here. I felt like it just gave a little bit more coverage. Now here's the hack if you want to have these cute caramel apples, but you don't want to have any of this possibly coming off in your home. I just got a treat bag that I had from just making some suckers or some treats with my kids. And I placed my caramel apple down in there. And then I'm going to still embellish this the exact same way I did those other two apples at the top. I'm just doing it over the bag. So it looks like it's an actual contained caramel apple that you would go and pick up at the fair or at wherever you were. But I just thought this was such a stinking cute idea, and I just thought it was so fun. But the same thing, I used that fabric and I used some twine. I would love to know if you had an idea of anything else you could embellish this with or tie on this. Let me know down in the comments what you would use to embellish yours with. But look at how cute these look, even displayed like this with some in the bag, some not. I just think they turn out so cute. And apples are so big right now. They're kind of becoming a little more popular. Apples are not my most favorite fall decor items, so I haven't done a lot with them, but they're growing on me. And so I'll have some more different apple DIYs to come. You guys request that every year, but I think that you won't have a hard time finding an apple shape to try this with. You'll have to let me know how yours turn out. What do you think of these? As I've been shopping around to get some ideas for different fall projects and autumn projects, I've seen a lot of black cats, not in a Halloween way, but more in just kind of a harvest fall time way. And I've really been loving them. So I thought I would make a piece with a black cat on here. I just thought it's, to me, just screams fall and autumn time. So I just printed this out from Google Images. I just searched for black cat silhouette and was able to cut that out, just printed it out. I'll leave a link to it down in my description box, so if you guys want to quickly find one, you can, but you can kind of match it to the size of your piece. Now I just cut that out and then I traced it on the back of one of these faux tin tiles that you get at Dollar Tree. I love using these for decor because I just feel like it has a nice vintage feel to it, something that would be a typical farmhouse thing to do, of repurpose something like an old ceiling tin tile. So I just think these are so fun. Now I just freehanded kind of a pumpkin shape. So you could also Google a pumpkin shape, cut that out if you wanted something a little bit more symmetrical. I just kind of wanted to do something kind of abstract and just cut something out, kind of an organic feel. Now, of course, I just paint the cat black. I paint the pumpkin orange. It takes about 2 coats of the black, 3 coats of the orange. Now, this sign I found at the thrift store, one of the recent trips that I took there. It looks like I think I paid $1 for it. You can tell clearly that at one point it came from Hobby Lobby. Someone just got tired of it. But I'm going to distress the frame a little bit to kind of make this look a little more rustic. Again, that's something I like to do. This worked perfectly because I didn't feel like I had to paint the frame or anything. I loved the color that was on there, but there were a few gouges in there and everything, so that just kind of makes the rustic tie in. Now, these are those cutting mats that you get at Dollar Tree. There's 2 in a package. And since this has a tin background here and it has a cutout on that, I wanted to completely cover this. So this is just kind of my idea. I was seeing if it worked. It actually works quite well. I just kind of press that cutting mat into the picture, run my finger along it, and then I just trim it to size to go right into my picture. And now this is one of the peel and stick wallpaper or wall stickers that you can get at Dollar Tree. Any type of wood pattern or design they had, or whatever designer pattern you feel that would work great. This is just a great hack that you could translate into any season or any DIY. But I just cover that cutting mat, and then you can see it fits in so well. Now I want this to be a little bit more of a permanent hold on here. So I'm just using my trusty Elmer school glue to go over that mat. And then I'm going to place it down onto the background here. That's going to cover that completely. Now you could do the same thing on the back side if you're going to sell this or you want to make it double-sided. I just went ahead with some black cardstock and cut it kind of down to size, and I'm just placing that on the back. The reason why I'm doing that is since it had that cutout letters where it said thankful, the light was shining through and you could see it through on the other side, and I did not want that. But this would be a perfect sign, and I may come back at a later time and make this a double-sided sign. I think that would be so fun. Now on my little cat that I cut out here, I'm going to use some craft sticks to glue down in a straight line down its back. I'm going to pop this out with some Jenga blocks, and I'm doing this so that way it gives a little bit more, literally a backbone to this cat. So it's not going to be kind of flopping around anywhere. This just kind of adds some stability. It's going to give me a place to glue my Jenga sticks or Jenga blocks onto and make this cat have a backbone. And you can see here I'm just taking some Jenga blocks and I'll glue 3 down, so that way when I glue it onto the surface, it's going to pop out and give you that 3D element. I do the same thing with the pumpkin, just glue a Jenga block onto the back of that, and he just needed 1, that little pumpkin did. Now the fun part of using these faux ceiling tiles is that you get to make that design pop. So I'm taking just a little bit of folk art metallic silver paint. I felt like if the paint was to scratch off of an actual ceiling tile, you would get like a coppery or a silver, some type of metallic tone to it. So I thought that was really fun. I just dry brushed that over both of those. Now I just used a bunch of scrap ribbon that I had to make this bow. There are so many different treatments you could do to your cat, even just a couple little wraps of twine around its neck with a simple little bow or a button. Kind of decide how much you want to embellish this. I just did a couple, like 3 or 4 different types of ribbons, and just tied some bows and tied them together with a zip tie. And then for my pumpkin stem, this is just a stick that came from our farm. I love to use these as pumpkin stems. I kind of collect them whenever we have a windstorm. We get a lot of fun branches that fall down, and I'll find some cute little sticks. And I just have a bucket of them I use for different stems or different things like that. It's kind of fun to bring that in. Plus it's free. Now I have this little wooden tag, and I'm just stamping Hello Fall. I'm using some Dollar Tree stamps, and I thought it would be fun to kind of mix the fonts up, kind of make it look a little whimsical. Now comes the fun part of putting everything together here. So I'm just making sure that my sign is completely free of any debris, and I just kind of place my little kitty cat down there, and then I kind of, while that glue is still hot, you can kind of manipulate where you want him set. If you want him up a little bit, I even tried to put a little Spanish moss underneath him to see like if he was sitting on a bed of Spanish moss. I didn't love it, but that's something just to give you an idea of something else that you could do. And then I'm just going to stack my little pumpkin right next to this cute little kitty cat. Now I want to add that tag to our pumpkin, so I just make a little raffia bow with just a little bit of raffia, and then I add a little bit of Spanish moss underneath him there, just to kind of add a little bit more softness to it. Overall, I think this turns out so cute. I think this would be such a fun little cozy piece to have for fall time. I love black cats this time of year, and I love that they're not just Halloween, that you can have them. That just kind of means harvest time, fall time. I just think this is so stinking cute. What do you guys think? I think you're going to really like how this DIY turns out. I have this cute little house that I got at Hobby Lobby, but I've seen them at Dollar Tree. And then I've also got this little ironing board that I got at Dollar Tree also. So what I'm going to do is make a mark on the top of this ironing board. You'll have to see if you can guess what I'm going to make out of this. And I'm just going to cut this off. So you can use an X-OXO knife, a box cutter, and do it that way. I just happen to have my saw right there, so that's what I used. And I am going to round out the edges on the bottom so they're not quite so square. And I'm just making sure that this kind of fits the size with my house of how I want. So however big you want to make this, you'll do it according to your measurements. So I tape off a couple of stripes because I'm making a candy corn out of the ironing board. And of course the top is going to be white, the middle will be orange, and the bottom will be yellow. So I'm just using Waverly's chalk paint in the pumpkin, and I believe maize is the color of the yellow. So you can use whatever kind of acrylic paint or chalk paint you would like. The yellow on this is not very bright, and the orange is a little bit more muted than a traditional candy corn, but it does match the decor that I've made this year, so I'm okay with that. So I'm just going to remove my tape here and see how my lines came out. I think I did a pretty good job on getting those crisp, clear lines right there. So now I want to make some beads that are candy corn color. So I just take some wooden beads and I do 6 beads total, 2 of each color of the white, the orange, and the yellow. Now, however you want to handle this next part is completely optional, but I'm going to be using some scrapbook paper because I have a little bit of a hole in the middle of my house there. I got this on a very good sale at Hobby Lobby because of that, but I don't have a piece of paper big enough, so I'm just using a couple of pieces and just matching up the seam there where the plaid is. My candy corn will cover the majority of this, so it's not super crucial to be so exact, but I do want the plaid to line up for the rest of the house. So now I'm just taking some scissors and cutting off the excess, and then I will just use my nail file, whatever you use, a sanding block, finger sander. You'll use that around the edge to make that a crisp, clean edge. And now I'm just taking some twine. I wrap it around like 3 times, and I'll just tie that off right here. And then I am going to thread on my beads in candy corn order. So I do the white on top, and then I do the orange and then the yellow. And I kind of offset these so my next strand of beads will be hanging just a little bit lower than the first strand. But I'll let you watch how I do that and how that looks. I take a little bit of twine and wrap it around my hand and then tie it off in the middle to make a cute little twine bow here to put at the top of my little hanging bead strands. And of course, you know me, I have to just stress something, if not everything, in my video. So I do sand the candy corn to kind of soften the edges, give it a little bit of a rustic look. I go around all of the edges, and then I also go in the middle there and kind of go over the yellow, the orange, and the white just to give it a really rustic look. I want to make sure that I match up the bottom of the candy corn with the house so it will stand really well. So once I get my position figured out and where I want that candy corn to do, I just kind of lift it up and glue underneath. I noticed I had a little bit of painter's tape on the back there. I do end up removing that, so just be aware of that. Now, I have these little Halloween figures that I have had for years. Some of these, like my mom gave me, that were from my childhood even. So I'm just kind of playing around because I really like the way each of these look. Here's what it looks like plain. And then I've got my cute little witch I could set in front of it, my little pumpkin. So whatever you have that you want to add, if you want to add a little more detail, you can. I personally like the look of the black cat there, so that's what I am displaying in front of mine. Which would you use on yours? This is such a fun little hack. So I got this Gather little beaded garland sign at Hobby Lobby. It's from their spring section. You can see it says $7.99. So I bought it on clearance, but typically their seasonal items you can get like at 40% off bare minimum. So I flip this over and I'm going to have a Halloween saying on this side of it. So then when I'm done, I can flip it over and have it say Gather for Thanksgiving. The paint was chipped on the back of this when I opened it up, so rather than repainting the whole thing and messing with the beads and the twine, I decided to just embrace that and make it look intentional. So that's why I am distressing this. I had not planned on doing that. So just keep that in mind if when you try this hack, if yours looks fine and you don't want to distress it, by all means don't. Now you can choose whatever saying you want to say on this. You can use rub-on transfers, you can use stickers, whatever you would like. I cut these out on my Cricut. It just says boo with the exclamation point and the two little black cats. I just love those. And then you can see I can flip it over and have the other side say Gather. I just love this hack. I think it turned out so cute and I'm excited to use this one this year. A few videos back, I did a thrift flipping with my family video, and while my family was picking out some DIYs, I found these two beautiful bundt pans, and I knew I wanted to grab them to make some pumpkins out of, so I've been holding on to them for a couple of months. Now this little copper one right here, it does have a little hanger on it like it was made for wall decor, so I don't think it was ever used to cook anything in, but this bundt pan is heavy duty, it's beautiful, but I just loved the color, and if you saw the price on there, I only paid $1 for it. So both of these I paid $1 for. Great bargain, great deal, and they're going to make some beautiful pumpkins. To start with, I'm just taking some floral foam. You could use some styrofoam, just something to fill in the gap in the middle of this bundt pan so we can fill it with a stem and some florals to kind of bring in that nice fall feel. I've seen a lot of these through Pinterest and my Instagram feed that people have done, and there's so many different ways to make these look like pumpkins. So I'm just kind of taking my spin on it today. I hope you guys enjoy this one. This is just a finial that I had. It's from Hobby Lobby, but any type of finial or even just a stick from your yard that you could cut down to make it look like the stem of a pumpkin would work great. So no need to get too fancy with that. I just painted mine green, and now I'm just putting a little bit of hot glue down on this floral foam, and I'm just putting some Spanish moss here. This is just going to help fill in all of the gaps here, give my florals something else to stick to besides that floral foam, and it's also just going to bring home that nice fall color. I love using Spanish moss on my fall DIYs. Now, first of all, I'm just going to dry fit. I just grabbed a bunch of my fall foliage, like fall florals rather, that I have here, and leaving some little succulents there, and I just brought them all out. And I'm just playing around just until I can kind of see if I like the way something looks or I don't. And this way, before I glue everything in place to be more of a permanent hold, I know if I like it. Now, one thing you could do is if this is a pan that you're not wanting to use any hot glue on or anything, you could skip the step of the hot glue and just dry fit everything in here and use your pan. Even if you did use a little bit of hot glue, you can still get that off of the pan. But this way, if you're not wanting to totally ruin a pan, you're just wanting it for decorational purposes, but then have it be functional, that's one thing to remember as well. So you could just totally dry fit all of your florals here and just leave it. I do end up gluing mine just so I could show you the process that I go through. Now with my leaves right here, this is a wonderful tip if you get some silk flowers or leaves that are very crumpled, especially from Dollar Tree. You guys know how some of those picks can look. Just blast them flat on a table with your little heat tool that blows the hot air there. That's just going to help flatten those out, and you can see how they went from very wrinkly to very flat. It's a great hack, and it works wonderful this time of year because I feel like all of the fall leaves that come into Dollar Tree especially look so crumpled and gross, and you just are tempted to not buy them, but never fear, this trick works wonders. I love using a little bit of pitberry here. You can see off to the right, that was just kind of a pick that I got at Hobby Lobby that had all of these little orange pitberries there that you can kind of make look like little corkscrews, like the little pumpkin vines or tendrils that come off of those pumpkins. And so I love using those. Now my stem was a little too green for the vibe that I was wanting to go for, so I'm just covering it with some antiquing wax. Once I get this completely covered, I'll take just a baby wipe or a wet paper towel and kind of just wipe, not kind of, but just wipe the excess off. And it's just going to leave you with a nice aged look there, more antique. You can kind of see how that will stay in all of the grooves on this little piece of this finial here. And I really do like the aged look that brings, and it kind of was more the vibe I was going for. Now that I've set everything in, I've dry fitted it to where I want it, I'm going to kind of take it out the best I can, almost like a clock. That's how it made sense in my mind anyway. I'm just taking all of these pieces out, placing them kind of where I had them set in my foam, and that way when I go back in to glue everything, I have it kind of in the area that I want. It doesn't look exactly the same, but I'm very pleased with how it turns out. I'm using a lot of hot glue to make sure that this stem doesn't go anywhere. It's not strong enough that you're going to want to pick this up by the stem by any means, but I definitely want that stem staying in place, not getting knocked over or anything like that. And the glue is going directly onto the foam. It's not going anywhere on my bundt pan. Now I just kind of work in the same order, going with a little bit of hot glue on the ends. I think if I had one of those crocks that you're able to kind of dip your stem in with the hot glue. I've never had one of those, but this was one of those projects that I thought that might be worth having. If you have one of those with the little hot glue beads that you put in, this would be a perfect project to pull that out for and do this with. But you could also use any kind of glue that you like to use, crafting glue. Hot glue is just what my go-to, and so that's what I was using here, just a little bit on the stems, and then I go around and just stick each of them in, trying to get them as close to where I had them before, but just whatever feels good, because once they're glued in, you can still kind of have a little bit of wiggle room to manipulate them how you want, but they're gonna be pretty secure once you glue them in. When I found this bundt pan, I was so excited with the color because it was already this beautiful harvest gold fall color. And I thought it would be so fun to do this with the pumpkin, but then this copper one I thought matched so well with it, so I thought they would be really cute together. I wanted to go for a more neutral look with this copper one. So this is just a peg from like a shaker shelf, and I'm just staining it with a little bit of antiquing wax to kind of make it look a little more aged. And then just a little bit of hot glue. It fit perfectly down, and there was this little indentation there, and it fit perfectly in there. And we're going to glue some stuff around it. I did not put any Spanish moss on this because I didn't really feel like it needed it. But with whatever florals you're deciding to do, some Spanish moss is a great filler to use. I just had these this was a package of the little cotton pods from Dollar Tree. There was 4 of them in there. I end up using 3. And then in between each of the cotton pieces here, you can see this is just a little bit of scrap leaf off of just one of those picks that I have off to the side there. I'll blast it with my heat tool to flatten it out, and you can see how flat that makes it. And then I just put a little bit of glue, and I'm going to just tuck one of these little leaves in between each of the pieces of cotton. Are they cotton pods? Is that? Somebody told me in one of my videos what they were called, and now I cannot remember for the life of me. But I'm just going to stick some of those leaves in between all of those little pieces of cotton. Where this particular pan did not have a hole or recessed area, I wasn't too worried about actually gluing my piece directly, like the little florals directly onto the pan, since I don't really feel like this particular pot or pan was worth anything. The bundt pan might have a little bit of historical value. I just wanted to kind of be as careful as I could not to have the glue touch that one. This one I feel is just more strictly decorational anyway, and so I didn't have a problem gluing things directly to it. Now these are just some pip berries on this. I thought it was fun to kind of bring that harvest color of pip berry in on this particular one to tie it in to our harvest gold bundt pan that I've used. So I just thought it was kind of a fun way to bring the fall colors, but you could stay completely neutral, do some white pip berry, or skip this step altogether. I love wrapping it around like a pencil or a paintbrush as I'm doing here to give it that nice corkscrew look. I just really do think that kind of ties in the pumpkin vines and how they get all of those little corkscrews and curlicues everywhere. I thought that was a really fun touch. I think these turn out so pretty. How fun are these going to be to have for kitchen decor for fall? And where these are such like a neutral fall, you can put them up at the beginning of the season and leave them all throughout Thanksgiving or however long you leave your fall decor up. I think they're beautiful. I love this trend. You can search grandma's cabinet. Maybe you've even got a really fun bundt pan. Check your thrift stores. Even if you don't find them in this color that I did, I've seen them done with all different colors and I think they all turn out beautifully. What do you guys think of these? You're going to love how simple and how quick this project is, and the impact that it makes is absolutely stunning. I just have an average pumpkin. You can pick these up anywhere really, Walmart, Dollar Tree, any craft store, and the size you use is just depending on what you're looking for. I'm using also some preserved moss as well as some spray adhesive. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this stem. You may want to hang on to this because you can use this to put back on the pumpkin at the end. I have a little something different that I'm going to use with this one, so I'm still going to hang on to this stem because you never know when you're redoing pumpkin crafts if you need a cute pumpkin stem to stick on something. So I just have a little bag that I use that I keep all of those in. So now that I have that stem removed, I'm just going to open up this moss here. Now you can pick up like reindeer moss at Dollar Tree that you can use. That would work very well for a project like this. You may just want to snip it up and cut it into littler pieces to work with in segments. But this is just preserved moss. You can pick this up at any craft store or craft section at Walmart or anywhere like that. So and you can see that there's some fun little items found in there. So I'm just going to take my pumpkin and working in sections, I'm just going to spray this adhesive. You want a pretty liberal amount because you just want to make sure that you're getting enough on there to hold this moss. And then just working in sections, you're just going to gently place this on there. And I hold it down a little bit just to make sure it gets like that tacky feel, like so it starts to hold, that glue starts to pick it up. This glue works really quickly. That's why you want to work in small sections. And I just want to make sure that I push firmly so it has a really good hold so that way pieces are not falling off. And as you do this, you may want to wear gloves if you're worried about getting the adhesive on your fingers or your hands at all. I didn't have too much of a problem washing my hands, having it come off, but I did have quite a bit of the moss stick to my fingers with a little bit of glue that I would get that would seep through the moss. So just be aware of that as you're doing this. I love the idea of bringing the outdoors in and having this natural, organic look to a pumpkin. I've seen these in higher end stores and boutiques. They go for a lot of money. And this really, you can make this as inexpensive as you want depending on the size of pumpkin. You may even already have a pumpkin at your house that you could try this with. I did buy this at 50% off with Hobby Lobby in their fall sale. So I think it was just a few dollars that I paid. So not very much money to have a really nice high-end looking piece. Plus it probably took me about 20-25 minutes at the most, I think, from start to finish with this project, so it goes pretty quick too. As you can see, maybe underneath I'm working with like a cookie sheet that I have to kind of contain all of the moss just to keep the mess to a minimum. So as you're doing this project, you may want to do something similar so that way you're not sweeping up moss for days to come. When I feel like I have a section completely put together with the moss, I just turn the pumpkin a little bit to the side. I spray down the next section with a very liberal amount of that spray glue, and then just work in pieces putting that moss on. You can see how simple this really, really is. And then as I'm just showing you here that as you get to the end, you kind of just squeeze in the moss, just fit it into the little areas. You'll I like the fact that this was a white pumpkin, so the contrast was really nice against that green, so I could see if there were any gaps or any areas that I missed. You would just go back if there was a spot that you're noticing that you missed and spray it with the adhesive pretty good, and then just stick some more moss on there, layering it on top of the other. I cover the entire pumpkin, including the top and the bottom. You could possibly leave a little bit of the bottom if you want this to sit very flat. I don't really have a problem with it not sitting flat, but that is an option if you kind of, depending on what your surface you're going to set this on, that you wouldn't have to do the very ring around the bottom there. You could leave that open, but I just went ahead and filled everything in completely. After you feel like you've got all of your pumpkin covered, do just spin it around, check for any holes or any areas there, and this is how it looks when I'm layering all of that on. Once I'm done, I spray the complete exterior of this pumpkin with the glue. This is going to hold the moss in place so you have minimal shedding from this pumpkin here. I've also heard of using hairspray to possibly do this, so keep that in mind. I did just, once I sprayed that glue, I rolled up all the little extra pieces of the moss that were there, and then I went ahead and sprayed it again just to make sure that I had another layer of glue on the outside to keep all of that moss on the pumpkin and not on my floor. Now I have this stick, I picked this up at my farm. I thought this would be a really fun type of stem for the pumpkin. Since it is styrofoam in the middle, it took just a little bit of finagling for me to get that stem in there and push it in really good. And then to kind of create a little bit more of a fun organic look around the stem so it didn't look so harsh moving from that grass to the stem, I used some Spanish moss around this. You could glue this down. It sticks very well. It adheres kind of to the texture of the moss. So as I put that in and got my stem all straightened up, I realized I probably didn't need to glue that down, but you definitely could. And I'm just spinning it around to make sure that everything looks really good. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you like seeing these different variations of pumpkins. I think it is so fun to come up with different textures and unconventional and unique ideas to bring different types of pumpkins into your decor, and I think this would be a great addition or element to your fall decor. What do you guys think of this one? I'm truly loving it. I would like to thank you so much for joining me for today's compilation video. I hope that you enjoyed all of these DIYs. If you had a favorite, let me know down in the comments. I always love to hear which ones you guys like the best. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.